You're waking up with Newsnet Mornings.
Good morning and welcome back. I'm Victoria Idoni with your headlines for your morning. Here's what's happening this Wednesday. We have the latest out of New York, where a man opened fire on a subway train yesterday morning. Plus, Russia's claiming more than 1,000 Ukrainian troops surrendered after President Biden made another controversial statement regarding the war that could require us to intervene. Those stories and more are ahead. Let's get started. Police across the country are hunting for the shooter who, donning a mask and a construction vest, set off a smoke canister and then opened fire on a subway train in Brooklyn. 5 of the 10 gunshot victims were in critical condition, but are expected to survive. Around 24 others were treated for related injuries, including smoke inhalation. The ATF is looking into the ammunition, while another part of the search is now focused on this van that was impounded last night. Authorities know who rented it, a man named Frank R. James, but say they don't know if he's the one responsible for the shooting. 62-year-old James has made social media posts calling the United States a racist place, awash in violence.
Recovered at that scene was a Glock 17 9mm handgun, 3 extended Glock-type magazines. 1 was still in the weapon, 1 under a seat, and 1 in a backpack. We had 33 discharged shell casings, 15 bullets, 5 bullet fragments, 2 detonated smoke grenades, 2 non-detonated smoke grenades, a hatchet, a black garbage can, a black milk type style rolling cart, the gasoline, and a U-Haul key.
While all of that was going on, the Lieutenant Governor of New York, Brian Benjamin, was indicted, facing charges including bribery, fraud, conspiracy, and falsification of records. The Democrat pleaded not guilty at an initial appearance in Manhattan federal court. He was released with conditions banning him from traveling out of state or to the Capitol in Albany, and bail was set at $250,000. When Kathy Hochul took over for the disgraced Andrew Cuomo in September, she chose the then state senator to serve as second in command to her governor role. He's still her running mate for this year's election. Benjamin is being accused of exchanging campaign contributions from a real estate developer for use of his influence as a state senator to get a state-funded $50,000 grant for the developer's nonprofit organization. In what's called the Empire State of the South, effective immediately, the requirement that Georgians obtain a permit to carry a concealed handgun in public has been abolished. The move follows the deaths of 3 people this past weekend, a teenager and his 75-year-old grandparents who were robbed and killed at a rural shooting range they own outside Atlanta. Opponents say that abolishing a background check for a permit will ease the way for thousands of people to carry guns illegally.
SB 319 makes sure that law-abiding Georgians, including our daughters and your family too, can protect themselves without having to have permission from your state government. The Constitution of the United States gives us that right.
President Biden was recently under fire for saying Russia's president cannot remain in power. But while leaving an event in Iowa yesterday, Biden stood behind his use of the word genocide. Just last week, Biden had said he didn't believe Russia's actions amounted to genocide, just that they constituted war crimes. Biden didn't elaborate on what changed his mind. However, if the declaration is formal, the U.S. has an obligation under international convention to intervene. Biden said that decision will be left to lawyers. Early today, the Russian Defense Ministry claimed 1,026 soldiers from the Ukrainian 36th Marine Brigade surrendered at a metal plant in Mariupol. Following that announcement, a spokesman for the Ukrainian armed forces said Russian forces were launching an offensive near a second metal works, as well as at Mariupol's port. But he made no mention of the claims that Ukrainian service members had surrendered. Once we were able to get vaccinated against COVID-19 here in the U.S., Krispy Kreme was one of the first companies to offer a promotion, giving away donuts to people with a vaccination card. Well, that's far from what a single glazed will cost you now. Andy Hirschfeld joins us with that story and other news out of the world of business.
Getting gassy, Krispy Kreme is switching up its prices in an interesting way. Every Wednesday through May 4th, it will sell its iconic glazed donuts for, get this, the average price of a gallon of gas. This comes amid surging fuel prices amid Russia's attack on Ukraine. The chain will peg the price to the average cost clocked in each Monday. Honda is joining the EV race. The automaker announced yesterday that it will invest $4 billion over the next decade. It also wants to launch 30 new electric vehicle models by 2030.
The deadline's approaching, whether we like it or not. Have you filed your taxes yet? Let this serve as a reminder there's just 5 calendar days left to get them in on time. If you've been putting off the chore or simply forgot, here's some more numbers showing that you're not alone. A recent survey found that 1/3 of those polled who hadn't yet filed say they're in no rush because they're not planning on getting any money back. Another 20% say they want to make sure they're filing correctly. According to the IRS, a number of common errors have come in this year, including many people forgetting about their COVID-19 relief or thinking it's the same as last year, which it likely won't be, especially if you received unemployment. Usually the tax deadline is April 15th, but this year it's been pushed back to the 18th. Despite the extra few days, experts say there's no time like the present. They want you to make those calls and organize your documents before the week is over. Or if you need to request an extension, go ahead and do so. The penalty for failing to file a return is 5% of the unpaid taxes for each month that your return is late, and up to 25% of your total unpaid bill. Scientists estimate that hundreds of millions of people meditate worldwide, and more than 14% of Americans have meditated at least once. The practice is known to improve focus and make you feel better, but research is also showing it has powerful effects on the brain.
It can help you focus, keep you calm, and now research is showing meditation may also improve the way your brain works.
May I be peaceful?
A study out of UCLA found people who meditated for an average of 20 years had more gray matter volume throughout their brains. Gray matter helps you control movements, maintain memories, regulate emotions, and more. A review from Johns Hopkins found mindfulness meditation helped reduce symptoms of depression, anxiety, and pain. And a team of researchers at Harvard found 8 weeks of mindfulness meditation actually increase cortical thickness in regions of the brain, including the hippocampus, an area that rules learning and memory. Anyone can meditate. If you're new to the practice, try to set aside 5 to 10 minutes each day. Find a place where you feel calm. Sit and focus on your body and your breath. If your mind wanders, gently guide it back. Popular apps like Headspace, Calm, and Buddhify are good resources, and many offer guided meditation options. Remember, this simple practice could have big impacts on your brain. I'm Nancy Alvarez reporting.
Other studies have shown meditation can reduce the risk of being hospitalized for coronary disease by 87%, and it can relieve the symptoms of insomnia up to 3/4 of the time. An expert on the matter has a look at a new study that shows even having just 1 beer or glass of wine per day can shrink your brain, and that it gets worse the more you drink. But how can that impact a person's health?
The study that looked at alcohol and brain volume didn't look at cognition or kind of day-to-day life function. But what we do know is that the brain shrinks in things like Alzheimer's disease. The brain shrinks in healthy aging. It's just shrinking to a different degree.
Dr. Caldwell says that once the brain shrinks to a certain level, an individual may become forgetful, get lost more easily, or have trouble with walking or their balance. It really just depends. Caldwell has learned a lot about the brain as part of her practice and schooling over the years, and she has some good news to offer. She says the brain is very resilient, so if a person were to stop drinking, it could rebound to some degree. Currently, dietary guidelines for Americans recommend no more than 1 drink per day for a woman and no more than 2 for a man, give or take. But Dr. Caldwell says that number should be even lower if you're getting older.
Some forgetting is normal for any of us at any age. So just because you missed a meeting or you lost your keys one time, that doesn't mean that you have a brain problem.
New data is showing that 2021 ended up being the deadliest year in U.S. history. The CDC reported that there were 3.465 million deaths last year, which is roughly 80,000 more than 2020's record-setting total. As you could probably guess, that increase is being attributed to COVID-19. That's despite early optimism that 2021 wouldn't be as bad as the prior year, partly because COVID-19 vaccines had finally become available. The coronavirus is not solely to blame, however. Preliminary data also shows the death rate for cancer rose slightly, drug overdose deaths also continued to rise, and rates continued to increase for diabetes, liver disease, and stroke. On today's National Day calendar, this celebration may be a little one-sided, unless you're a wordsmith or a good sport.
Welcome to April 13th on the National Day calendar. The game of Scrabble was invented during the Great Depression by an out-of-work architect. For anyone who grew up on Mars, Scrabble is played with 2 to 4 players who score points by forming words from individually lettered tiles on a game board marked with a 15 by 15 grid. Since its humble beginnings, Scrabble is now played in 121 countries, in 29 different languages. It was also featured as a television game show in the 1980s. The highest scoring word ever recorded in a Scrabble tournament earned a whopping 392 points. The word was spelled Caziqueus, which is a type of Oriole. On National Scrabble Day, challenge someone you know to the classic board game or play online to bring out your inner word nerdiness. I'm Marlo Anderson with the National Day Calendar. See you again tomorrow as we celebrate every day.
Thanks, Marlo. That's my favorite board game. To find out what else you can celebrate today or play over the days ahead, head on over to nationaldaycalendar.com. It's time now for the entertainment report. Here's Frank McCaffrey with a little sad news today.
I can't believe it. I just don't believe it. We're never going to get a hold of that stupid lamp. Just forget it.
Fans of the movie Aladdin are in mourning with the loss of one of its stars. Gilbert Gottfried portrayed the voice of Iago in the film. The 1992 Disney classic was one of many films featuring Gottfried's voice. He was also seen in several movies as well. The legendary comedian, actor, and voiceover artist died yesterday at the age of 67 after a long battle with illness. He was born and raised in Brooklyn. That's your entertainment report. I'm Frank McCaffrey.
Because we like you, how about a little good news from Disney before we go? The happiest place in Europe, Disneyland Paris, is celebrating its 30th anniversary. The attraction in the French capital is Europe's top tourist destination. 375 million guests and counting have visited the magical park since it opened. It's also a major employer, presently providing jobs to upward of 16,000 people, more than 900 of whom have worked there since day one. Stay with us. Weather, sports, and more are headed your way. With your latest headlines, I'm Victoria Idoni. Have a wonderful Wednesday.